Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Jackson.
We're back.
We're back, and you are such a priority in my life that I would never procrastinate phoning you.
Isn't it nice to know that we're right here? Like we didn't even have to confirm it. I just knew that you would be here.
Yeah. Well, we're both firmly in the mainland, but we're using Cloudlandia tools to actually facilitate, which is as it should be, you know.
As it should be. We should be, yes, using them to our advantage.
That's right, to enhance our mainland success and satisfaction, because I've been thinking about that a lot, you know, because I think it's a vital distinction, and everyone that I brought it up with, quoting you, of course, I find people are very, very interested in saying, well, it seems to me that being successful in life, personally and organizationally, know where the boundary is between the mainland and Cloudlandia.
Yes, that's true. You really realize it. Like, I think so much that we often get caught up as entrepreneurs in our social circle kind of thing, that so many things are moving into Cloudlandia. This is where it's all happening. But I had an interesting conversation with David Berg at Game Changer, and he pointed out something that was really kind of, I didn't even have this awareness of it, but some crazy amount of number, the majority of workers in the United States make less than $15 an hour. And it was some like really serious number, like over 50% of the workforce. And you realize that those are all mainland jobs, basically, right? I mean, that's really where that's all happening. And it's just kind of, wow, you know, when you really think about it like that, so many things are this you know, I'm trying to articulate this thought of that the big gap is not going to be so much the income disparity between the top and the bottom, but I think it's going to come from the result of how much people embrace Cloudlandia in a way, you know, and that intersection, in the intersection of both the migration and the actually, you know, living there. That society is migrating to.
Yeah. I think the mainland has to move towards Cloudlandia, but it seems to me that Cloudlandia has to move towards the mainland too. It's you know, and I'll give you an example of that. So I was just reflecting that we like new things. Like, I think generally people like new things, but we also like things that we can depend upon. You know, like we like dependability, and we especially like dependable humans, you know, that we can count on. And I was reflecting that when we opened our Toronto office, it was Labor Day. It was the day after Labor Day in 1991. So we've been in the same premises since 1991, it'll be going on 27 years this coming Labor Day. And the day we started, we signed up with UPS, and the UPS person picked up our packages for that day. And on Friday, he was there again 27 years later to pick up our packages. We've had the same UPS driver for 27 years.
Wow.
And he's, you know, he's kind of like one of the team, you know, and everybody chats with him, and, you know, and we give him gifts, you know, at the holidays. Same story is true in Chicago. We opened our office there in 1998, and 20 years later, we still have the same UPS pickup guy.
Yeah.
So, and, UPS has really, really gone more and more high tech over the years to support their drivers. So it seems to me that there's a nice thing happening there in our relationship with UPS, that there's a human contact that's absolutely dependable to us, and and we all appreciate it. But on the other hand, UPS has continually done a lot more with technology to make the drivers' lives a little bit easier, and work out various strategies, because traffic, city traffic has certainly got more complicated since then, and it's a really interesting thing that in today's world, where people say, well, turnover is great, and people don't stay with the same job. Here's a system where they actually do, and they have stock ownership. Both guys have stock ownership, so they're, it's their lifetime job, and they're they have a stake in the company they're working for. So my feeling is this is the direction that things are going to go in, and this whole talk about robots and everything else, is talking people but not doing people. In other words, there's a world of talking. Right. A world of talking people who talk about this and talk about that, and their only achievement is talking. But people are actually doing things, are actually working out the arrangements where we can combine the mainland with Cloudlandia.
I agree. It was interesting on my More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast. I had a couple of recent conversations about this last 100 feet idea. Like everybody talks about, I think what it's been, the shift of the last sort of phase of it has been what they're saying, the last mile problem, right, of getting something to your door. Well, basically, we've solved all of the last mile programs of we can get anything that you want. You can arrange it in Cloudlandia to bring it to your door now, right? Like Amazon.
Which is in the mainland. Yeah, which is in the mainland, actually. Yeah. Richard Rossi. Our friend Richard Rossi and Lisa, his partner, stayed with us for the last 4 days, and they were saying in Washington now, Amazon now has access to their front door, and it's all videoed. In other words, that they can take the package and put it inside your door so that it's not stolen. It's first of all, you're getting. Go ahead.
I get that. That's really where it's going. Is now that this next shift is going to be, I think, the last 100 feet. That's where the mainland opportunities are going to be. Is that literally we can get anything right to the door. Like we can get any physical good delivered. You get food delivered. You can get a car delivered to pick you up and take you anywhere you want to go. You can do all of that. But it was an interesting thing with the specific incidents that we were talking about was somebody does vegan nutrition. And we were talking about this idea of like preparing meals for people, like getting right into it, that it's the actual preparation to the consumption of it that makes it work. And we were talking about services like Plated or Blue Apron or these meal delivery services that will pre-portion all of the ingredients and everything and deliver it to you. And I see that there's an even bigger opportunity for somebody to bolt onto a service like that, but then actually come in and prepare the meals for you, as opposed to you getting the ingredients and then having to still go through the cooking and the preparing of it. That there's another,
And I think it goes into other areas too. Harry Meisel, who has the company Less Doing, for those of the listeners who don't know who Harry is. So Harry, anything that you need in the way of someone who's got a skill or a specialty who can do something for you, you give Harry a call and he'll find the person for you, and he'll set up the process by which the person can actually do your thing, and he'll manage, Harry's company will manage the whole thing. They'll just allow you to get the finished result that you're looking for. But I was talking to him, about thinking processes that we have a lot of thinking process in Strategic Coach, and these are, they're little on paper or digital, because we have them digitized, is that if you just follow this thinking process, you'll get a good thinking result. You'll be clear and thing. But a lot of entrepreneurs aren't that type of person who can actually look at a form and actually follow it right through. And I said, one of the nuts that we have to unloosen and really make work in Strategic Coach is an instantaneous pick up the phone and somebody will guide you through a thinking process, and then we'll deliver a finished written version of one of our tools.
We had that conversation about the impact filterer.
Well, we're meeting on Friday in New York to launch it. So we're actually going ahead to do that. Yeah. So and we're going to start off with the impact filter just as the tool, because I consider it to be the most crucial action tool in Strategic Coach. And so anyway, and so there will be a growing army of impact filter facilitators that will be available to our clients. You just pick up the phone, dial a number, and they have the form in front of you, and they ask you the questions and talk you through step by step. And you can see it on your screen as it develops, and when it's finished, you get the impact filter. And
this is awesome. And are these going to be? These will be people in your office that are.
No, his office.
Oh, right, exactly.
No,
okay.
We're a workshop coaching program.
Right.
We're not. Yeah, I know where. It was like the discussion we had in the Game Changer. I know where my money's made. And my said, here, Ari, you create the service, the money's yours. I mean, the product is ours. The IP is ours, but you can make as much money as you want off this thinking process if you'll support our entrepreneurs to think clearly through their projects. So this is Cloudlandia. You could only do this if Cloudlandia was available, but all the projects that are being talking about are mainland projects.
I love it. That's so great. Congratulations. I mean, that's I can't wait to see that unfold here.
Well, here's another example, because this podcast that we're doing right now will be heard before the service is actually available. So I suspect that our phones are going to be ringing off the hook. Oh, when's that service available? So this is actually my first commercial and it's only possible because of Cloudlandia.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just baiting the hook here. I'm just baiting the hook.
Right.
I'm pre-selling. I'm doing a form. Yeah, I'm doing a form of marketing here with this explanation. But everybody's excited about it, and Ari's excited about it. So but it's an example of a game changer collaboration. We have a thing. He has a thing. But I don't want to develop this service inside my company.
Right. Very smart. That's awesome. Well, we should talk a little bit about Game Changer. We haven't been spoken since Chicago, which was fantastic.
I don't really know if you even liked it.
Oh, wait a second now. Holy
you
cow.
said wonderful things. You said wonderful things. I'm just pulling your leg here.
I know it. Yeah. And it really was wonderful. I mean, just the whole, both the day, I like that model of doing the 10 times workshop and then doing the game changer. And we had a couple of really nice dinners the night before both of them, and that was one of the highlights. I think really getting those conversations. It's very different, the conversations that you have among I always find that among the entrepreneurs that are part of Strategic Coach than the general conversations that you have with people at a dinner.
Yeah. What would you?
I mean,
okay, so first of all, I'd like to know how you're seeing that. What are you seeing as the big difference?
Well, so first of all, having a common language, right? Like when we were able at the dinner, and Sunday night, I was surprised and delighted that it was a small dinner. I thought it was the dinner that happened on Monday night with everybody, but the fact that it was sort of a
five, Babs and me and five people.
So it was really like a salon type of thing, right? Like more of a curated conversation evening, and to just be able to have a common language that we could start a conversation with doing a positive focus. And that you could say those words to somebody, and everybody knows what that means, and it's not at all awkward, or that everybody's excited to talk about the positive focus. And what a great jumping off point for conversations. And so it's really refreshing that way. It's like, I think it really amplifies your ambition in a way, I mean, to know that you can have big conversations and be around people who are having equally bigger conversations,
Yeah. And, I was just thinking about my life generally, and yours, I suspect, would be exactly the same, is that I live in a almost like a kind of, from my standpoint, almost at the epicenter of a social environment where virtually everybody has a future that's way bigger than their past.
Right.
And it's just a totally different way of experiencing life, where everybody says, gee, there's this opportunity, I've made this progress, I'm experiencing breakthroughs here, I'm looking for this new capability. And it's just a marvelous way to go through one's life. Yes,
it really is. And so that was a really great part of it. But the game changer workshop itself, we had our very first kickoff workshop, and it was kind of an interesting environment, because the people who are in the program are people that I think I knew most of the people there, because we've all been around for a long time. Years. Yeah, exactly. And we've all run into each other at 10 times workshops or different things. But to sense the level of the way we're kind of looking at our relationship is coming into a place where we're really looking at the resources of all of our unique abilities instantly on tap to collaborate to help all of us go to whatever the 100 times level of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it was interesting because all of us have, and you have, we take jumps every once in a while. We'll go along and we're, really maximizing the potential of what we already know how to do. And then we'll get to a point where we kind of feel we want another big expansion on our capability. And we create something new and offer something new to the world. And I've really done it a lot. I mean, because I've been at the coaching since 1974. So it's, I'm pushing, I'm getting up near half a century in coach, but certainly over 40 years. And I can remember like about 20 jumps that I've made going from personal coaching to workshop coaching, and then having other coaches and being in one city and now being in 8 cities in 3 countries. And I've always, previously to the Game Changer, I've always experienced this as nervous time. I was really nervous and kind of, there were some worries and some fears about, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? I had none of this with the Game Changer. I was the most relaxed I've ever been going into something. And and everybody was asking me about this because they were kind of worried that I wasn't worried.
Oh, wow.
Because they've noticed, over the years, my team has noticed my pattern that if Dan's getting really nervous, it's adrenaline is starting to flow. But I had no concerns about it, and I said it's going to be binary. Either it's going to be 100% success, or it's going to be like a flat out wipeout. It's going to be
right.
But there's not going to be in between these two results. I didn't have any sense of a halfway result, and I think the reason was because it's utterly simple. Everybody in the room is a coach to everybody else in the room.
And I think there's some element of it too that I'll call them the investment of being in the room is, I think, brings with it some elevation as well.
Yeah, and I would say that for probably about half the room, just the qualification that you have to have an outside collaboration in place that you bring into the room was almost as big a jump as some people, in other parts of strategic coach that they will achieve after they've been in coach for a while. But here they had to have the achievement just to qualify for the, be in the room. And I think that made a huge difference. There was this sense of admiration and respect that was immediate simply because everybody knew what everybody else had to do to qualify to get there.
Yes, agreed. And it was really, it was great to hear and see all the different, big visions that people have in there. That often, sometimes the collaboration or their big moving forward picture is different even than their primary business. Which is kind of a cool thing too. There's a lot of
the one that most struck me along those lines is Tony DeSantis, and Tony's been in the program for 25 years, and he's a wholesale. He sells the drugs that are compounded for pharmacies. In other words, the basic drugs. And so he's, in 3 countries. And he had this very, very interesting, very, very interesting project that he noticed that pharmacists can't compound a certain type of product. And it's a product where the pharmaceuticals are in a lotion. And it requires a level of technology that most pharmacists don't have, and so they have probably less profit on this because they can't actually create the pharmaceutical, or they can't immediately respond to consumer needs. And the solution was with an industry, Precious Metals, who have developed the ability to create 100% consistent precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, and everything And his game changer is by doing a collaboration with a company that knows how to do this with precious metals, but then they created a process for doing it with pharmaceutical lotions. And it just struck me as a marvelous use of his imagination and his, going far afield to achieve a solution that really he doesn't really need. In other words, he's got a very highly profitable business that continually grows, but he wanted this solution, and that became his game changers. And now already it's transforming his business because of the high profitability of it. And he's going to have like a worldwide monopoly on this for as long as he wants because he's got it all patented. And, he'll license it, but it's still, it's a very, very interesting thing to see that ingenuity.
Yeah. Amazing.
And yours with the franchise, the huge franchise networks.
Well, what was really freeing for me is realizing that the being able, like, I look at my capabilities both personally and organizationally, and that was an interesting kind of distinction that we did in the workshop too, but in the preparation materials even. Thinking just what are my personal and organizational kind of assets that I have to come into this with, and realizing that as I'm listening to people describe what they're doing, I realized how many of them that I could be a dream come true for them in many ways, in being able to do, they have companies that are fully able to execute, to do, to provide a transformational result for people. And they really would be amplified by marketing, or they've been trying to figure out the marketing of that. And for me to be able to come in and overlay, on top of what they're doing to provide that to them, would be right in our unique ability zone for both of us, allowing them to stay in their unique ability, allowing me to stay in my unique ability without having to figure out the execution of their business or something like it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing that I'm seeing from what you're just describing right now is the wearisomeness of the way most people envision expansion into the future of their entrepreneurial model. Either I really, really have to now go through a period where I have to spend an enormous amount of money staffing up and bringing people in to go to the next level before we'll have any kind of return. In other words, it's going to be an enormous expenditure of money and time and activities that I find very wearisome,
and discipline
to jump to the next,
and
discipline to the next level without really any guarantee that it's all going to pay off, or I'm going to buy somebody else. I'm going to buy their company, and we're going to get their acquisition with all the weariness of that. Or somebody's going to buy me with all the weariness of that. And it just seems like no more free time, no more just kind of enjoying things. And I said, well, why don't you just find somebody who actually has the capability and do a deal? It's like my thing with Ari Meisel. It doesn't change my company. It doesn't change his company. He doesn't have to learn anything new. This is what he does. I don't have to learn anything new. This is what I do. Let's just combine them and set a goal.
It's so, I like that idea, that I kind of used that term, venture collaborist, to look at it like that as really, that's a new model that it's really like eye-opening, for me. I kind of look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was interesting because I've been experimenting with that with, my game changers, the examples that I gave. I've got it. What if I just want the capability at first and I don't really care about the money, which is a very unusual mindset in the entrepreneurial, in the entrepreneurial world. But I had to do it that way because I had to get a feeling of what the reward is of just getting a new capability, in other words. And so I tested that out and I think this is why I was so relaxed, because I knew it worked. I knew. I mean, it's like our podcast series. I mean, between lunch on one day and lunch the next day, we had first of all invented the project, named the project, already had the capability for the project, and the next day did the project. Yeah, and the only agreement was, hey, let's do it.
Yes, exactly.
And that launched something that's been extraordinarily enjoyable for both of us, and it's been actually intellectually breakthrough. I mean, just to, you can see the impact of the who, not how model. What impact it's had on Strategic Coach.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think you're right. This is the perfect example of that. That's not, neither one of us are looking at this as how are we going to monetize this, or that's not the thing. The real value is just what you said. It's the capability, just expanding our thinking. That's been the biggest reward for me, is just even the conversations. And we're letting, other people come along for that ride. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a client, I should tell you, on Thursday, and he said it's his great pleasure when he's, not actually doing actual work, is listening to our podcast. He said, I listened to them 2 or 3 times. And he says, it's just one of my greatest pleasures to listen to Dean and Dan, to actually start a conversation and not really be not worried about where the conversation is going, but absolutely not knowing where the conversation is going.
Right. It always goes somewhere fun and productive. Yeah. Well, I was curious. You said that you weren't at all stressed or anything coming into Game Changer, but we didn't really get a lot of chance to talk about it leading up to Game Changer. But on the backside of it now, what was the sort of procrastination experience of getting, because you had quite there was a lot of different look and a lot of different ways in packaging the tools and things. There was a lot of innovation that happened in providing this program. But was there any, how did that go procrastination-wise?
Well, not very much, because, my way of starting something is to announce opening night and start selling tickets,
right.
And usually then I start getting angsty, because what am I going to, people know when it starts, they know how much it's going to cost. They've given me part of the money up front and all of it before they arrive. And were you worried about that? But I had actually started this about 5 years ago, and I had done a couple one-off days where I started exploring the idea of Game Changer. And then I had also done these collaborations, like with Peter Diamandis and Stefan Wissenbach and a number of other people, where I'm actually contributing my time and my effort to projects which the other person essentially owns, and they make the money on it, because I wanted to see what it looks like. If does it pay? What I wanted to establish is there enough reward in collaborating with another person, even if you don't own it and you don't make the money on it, but you get enormous capability back. And I wanted to test that out, and I was totally satisfied with it. That there was enough reward in the area of capabilities and credibility and connections and community that I said I could do it without the money side. And so I had to satisfy myself that was a viable proposition. And then the other aspect about it is I had a staff person who was managing this for 2 or 3 years, Eleonora Mancini, and she's a terrific project manager. And so she was doing all the backstage on this, and we were doing a lot of Zoom calls. You were on one of them where we would take people who I knew were going to be in the first workshop, and we just did hour-long Zoom calls about how they were thinking about game changes. So I did a lot of little tests before the big production, and then Kathy Davis took over the entire production of materials. And actually, she surprised me with the spiral rather than binder packaging of the materials. And she came in one day and she showed me the complete mock-up. She says, "We've just been doing something behind the scenes." And she wants to do it for the whole program, but she used this as her test model to.
That makes sense, right?
And so that was, it wasn't even on my mind. And she just came in about, 6 weeks before, and she said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "Gee, that's terrific." And she says, "Well, but you have to have all the materials in 3 weeks before because this is the first time we're doing it." So that was the other reason. I wasn't doing last-minute creativity, 3 weeks before I had all the material in. So for a number of reasons, it wasn't the usual last-minute jitters.
But there was still that. So you had that the 3 weeks though. That you had you must have still had some.
No, I didn't.
It wasn't. Okay.
Because I could see the confidence that if people had the collaboration, that they felt very. The other thing that I did at Abundance 360 this year. This is my, Peter's big show in January. So there are a lot of our people were there, but there were 9 of the people who were in the room when you attended the Game Changer who had been at the Abundance Conference. And the last day I said, "Why don't we have lunch together and tell everybody about our Game Changers?" And the lunch was so electric of people just going around, 9 of them talking about their Game Changers. I said, I know what it's going to be like. So I did a lot of testing in small form of what the big, it was almost like I had rehearsed every part of the play as a separate entity. So I had them all in my mind. And I've been doing the podcast with Steve Krein, and I knew he was going to be a star. I could get him up there for an hour and he could talk about, because we had already spent hours talking about how he's being a game changer.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that was great. I mean, he did a great job. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I had a podcast with him the Friday after the Game Changer, and he said it had getting up and talking about his model had a profound impact on him. And he said people told me it had a great effect on them, but the truth is it had a great impact. He says, "I've jumped way ahead in my model simply because you asked me to share it with other game changers."
That's great. Yeah, and so it's really interesting, like the deadline things. I very rarely have them, but I just on Friday, just yesterday. What day is it today? Sunday. Friday, I spoke at Dan Kennedy's super conference here in Orlando, and so I'd known that was coming up for a while, and I was doing a new talk that I've never shared a lot of the stuff there, and of course I had the slides and everything to go with it, and there was this I've made a really interesting distinction in the type of time, the sense of the leading up to it, where it was when I wake up and say, okay, procrastination, what have you got for me today? Super conference, there it is. Big noun, super conference, as the thing front and center, which I was able to then, just put the word brainstorm in front of that and say brainstorm super conference. So I was able to, with my remarkable tablet, be able to, I had a whole super conference notebook so that I was able to just brainstorm and outline my way all the way through to the, then it just became assembling all the pieces, choosing the order, which I was really just all done at the last minute. There's some, I think you do get some kind of clarity from that, I think. I don't frame it as a negative thing anymore. It wasn't I didn't look at it as a negative type of stress.
Yeah.
But more of a focusing kind of stress. I noticed how the closer it got to the thing, literally the most focused that I got was the Friday morning of my giving the actual talk on Friday evening. But it wasn't it wasn't in a negative way, because I'd already had the brainstorming stuff done ahead of time.
It's really interesting. Kathy, I work very closely with Kathy Davis on all my workshops and workshop material. And I said the day before, the Tuesday, so this was the Monday when we had a workshop, I said to her that morning, I will have an impact filter for you on the game changer, but only the morning of the game changer. I'm just going to establish in my mind what the first 3 hours are, because I said by noon I'll be totally clear what the rest of the day looks like. But it's just getting things started. So I showed it to her, and she said, that's terrific. And I said, the biggest thing we have to do, even though it seems a little time-consuming, we have to let everybody in the room know who else is in the room with them, so they can start there. So they can start linking up already to interesting things that they find out about the other people. And there are some people, who are really impatient, in that room, and they, okay, get on with it. And I said, that's the only thing that we have to, hold firm on, that unless everybody in the room knows who else is in the room and what their project is, we're not doing, it's not going to work. So that was my big thing for the morning, is that you have to have this period where everybody stands up, says who they are, what they are, and what they're about. And I said that is crucial for everybody in the room.
And it took a long time, but it was.
Yeah,
but
everyone was. It was
riveting.
It was an hour. Yeah, it was an hour and a half, but you could just feel the expanding and deepening of the collaboration as people went around, and so. And a lot of people, there's a sense of confidence about being in the room that's from the least amount to the most amount. And there, I would say probably a third of the room said, I'm not even sure I'm qualified to be in this room with these other people. But after that, everybody getting up and saying, I think everybody felt that they were, that they deserved to be there.
Yes, agreed. And I think it was really interesting to see, like as you're listening, of course, it is kind of a clarifying thing to really get a sense of who are the people that you would best mesh with, that you've got the thing that they really need.
It's really and I have some people who've been in the program for a long time, and they said, well, I'll just write you the check. He said, anytime you create a higher level of the program, I'll write a check. And I said, well, it's not the check, actually. I said, it's actually that you've got to have a new reality in the marketplace for yourself to be there. And they said, well, I'll get that when I come. And I said, no, that's cheating. I says, because everybody else is qualifying and you can't qualify differently. And, I really held my guns. I stuck to my guns on that one.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see what happens. See it all unfold.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Kathy and I are hard at work because you guys gave us a lot of obstacles, in the strategy circle. So I'm doing an impact filter on every obstacle, and then we're going to come up with, breakthroughs for everybody's thinking for workshop, the second workshop. And, yeah. So anyway, it's a really, I felt afterwards, first of all, it's really changed I've had 3 10 times workshops since we did the Game Changer. And I was a totally different kind of coach in those 3 workshops than I've ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is, and I didn't realize it until after the Game Changer, that before the Game Changer, I've always felt that I'm at the bottom of a hill pushing people upwards. And since the Game Changer, I feel that I'm on the top of the hill and I'm just encouraging them to get to the top.
Mm. That's a nice distinction. Yeah. It's interesting how your thoughts, shape the way that you're, yeah.
He's not my favorite person to quote, but Vladimir Lenin, who was the mass murderer psychopath who started the Soviet Union, said that there's certain thoughts that you can't think until you perform certain types of actions.
That's an interesting quote. Yeah.
I mean,
wow. What did he mean by that?
What he considered to be a useful action is probably not the same that you and I consider a useful action.
Right.
It's kind of like once you've performed your first mass murder, it comes easier to you. Thinking about it comes easier to you. But there is a thing about action, and that is that you can only think yourself into progress and growth to a certain point, and then you actually have to go out and do something before your thought will actually jump to the next level,
Mm-hmm. That's true. The thing that...
go ahead, yeah.
No, I was going to say the thing that I started that thought with, of the lead up to speaking at Super Conference, of course, was a crystal clear thing with a real deadline, with, involving other people, and all of the things that line something up to create, that eustress that creates the outcome, right? And I thought about it that if I look back, I've kind of favored not being in situations like that, right? I prefer to, set myself up, to where there's not deadlines and not things like that. But I'm wondering about how, it's a very different feeling on Saturday morning, waking up with virtually nothing pressing. I don't have any thing coming up right now that is kind of a, that I'm avoiding, that I'm actively procrastinating something right now. But there are things that I then am perpetually procrastinating, I guess, right? Where there's things that I would love to do, but are not. I'm not driven by a deadline on it or on anything, and I'm wondering if that's if it almost has to have those things in order to be brought out,
Yeah.
And would it be better, I mean, I look at those things of, would it be better if I could rally a way to get myself to do some of those things without the need for a deadline for them?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think you are and I am both extremely more skillful in 2018 of identifying procrastination, seeing them in a positive rather than negative light, and resolving them fairly quickly.
Yes.
I certainly feel that, that
I do too.
I'm much more skillful than I was 2 years ago. And yet, I always seem to have a full slate of new ones.
Right.
So my feeling is that nature abhors a vacuum, and it ignores any vacuum in your mind that doesn't have some sort of procrastination. So as quickly as you get them, transformed into someone else's action, your mind fills up again with some more procrastinations.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, you think about your rhythm of quarterly, it dictates a lot of things where it's the writing a book every quarter creates a sort of creates a deadline, creates a structure, a framework for, because that doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen on its own, right? You had to set that up, and everything else organizes around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that I'm just doing the book for September right now, but we're sending the book for June to the printer next week. So the one next week is capableism, which is an old thought about 20 years that I've developed into a book. And then the one for September is my plan for living to 156, which I think is going to go viral just because.
I do too. I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Maybe we should just print the cover, and send it out.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the chapters is essentially the mindset is always leading an incomplete life, in the sense, don't think about really actually completing anything in your life, but instead just take something and jump it to the next level. In other words, when it gets to be about 80% complete, just jump it to the next level. And so I've always been very resistant to the notion in life of bringing your life to completion, of tying up loose ends and everything like that.
Right.
Because I think it's a message to death to come and get you, that you're ready to go. Like Bucket List, the movie.
Yeah.
Somebody says, "Oh, the Bucket List. Have you seen the Bucket List?" I say, "I refuse. I not only refuse to see the movie, I don't even want to entertain the idea. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's getting ready for death. And what I'm noticing is that this thing of having procrastination should be always present with you, that no matter how productive you are, there are things you're procrastinating on. And that's important, that you always have the procrastinations,
That's a valuable thought right there. That makes a lot of sense, because that.
Well, not only are procrastination is a positive thing, you should welcome them. As long as you have a process for resolving the ones that are really going to lead to breakthrough actions, within a certain framework of time, you should welcome them. And I hadn't really seen that until I was going to my attitude towards completion, because I said, lead an incomplete life. Don't lead a completion life. Lead an incompletion life that you keep upgrading to the next level of play.
Right. Yes. I think you're right. That's almost like this sense of getting to a point where you have a clean slate kind of thing, right? Like free of procrastination. Okay, I'm finally caught up, and then realizing you've created a vacuum. You're right.
Yeah.
And now the joy is to immediately fill it up with bigger ambitions. Well, I think that's really what it is. Bigger ambitions, bigger intentions, bigger, bigger outcomes that you're looking for, and then get to work procrastinating your way to reaching all of those.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'm not quite sure how this relates, but my favorite scientific theorem is Gödel. He's a Austrian or German. I think he was sort of on the border of Austria and Germany. And Einstein said that his theorem was the greatest scientific breakthrough of the 20th century, and Einstein's someone who would know about breakthroughs. And what Gödel said, he said, you can't be inside of a system and understand the system that you're in. Okay, it's you can't be inside the jar and know what's written on the label.
Read the label, from inside the jar, right?
You can't read the label. But what I've begun to realize is that we can't be outside of our own thinking system. It's not possible for humans to get out. We're inside of a particular thinking system, and we don't know what it looks like from the outside. So the whole notion of completing our thinking for a lifetime is a foolish thought, because we wouldn't even have the foggiest idea of what that actually meant. Because, it's like fish imagining what life is like outside of water. Well, it's not possible.
What's water? Yeah.
What's water? They don't even know what water is.
Yeah, that was a great little cartoon that I saw one time. Was the two fish.
What's water?
Did you ever think there's a whole life outside of the water? He goes, what's water?
Yeah. The closest I ever saw to a creature coming to grips with their reality it was a Gary Larson cartoon. It was two vultures, and one of them says, I hate this fighting game. Why don't we just go and kill something?
I gotta kill something. That's right.
And, that vulture is kind of on the, he's almost on the threshold of evolutionary breakthrough there, But my feeling is that what if procrastination is just the natural process of thinking, and being being a human being? It's a procrastination process, and it's very fundamental about what our existence is really about. And
what's never dawned on me is actually to even look up the etymology of the word procrastinated all the time we've been doing it here. Have you thought about that or know that? We should do that.
That's an assignment for both of us, and then we can talk about that at our next one. But anyway, I as always, fantastically enjoyable to explore the various dimensions of procrastination and what we're doing with it.
I love it. I'm going to take, now that I have my decks cleared, as they say, I'm going to take this opportunity to fill it up with things I can procrastinate, because I know how to deal with that.
Yeah,
I know how to harness
it. The essence of this is that we both procrastinate on looking up the definition of procrastinate. That would probably be that'd be the zen of procrastination, that we actually procrastinate on finding out what procrastination actually is.
I love it. That's the good title for this week's The Zen of Procrastination.
Yeah. Always a pleasure.
Always, Dan. I will talk to you. Are we on for next week? I forget.
I'm in New York next week, so I think it's the week after.
Week after.
The week after.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.